All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation starts right now. We're calling it State of the Nation. We're talking about matters, politics, and everything in between there. But mostly the biggest question we're asking you this morning is, what will it take to save our country? What will it take to save our country? At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. My guests are already in studio, all four of them. Honorable Geoffrey Ruku is here, Member of Parliament from Mbeere North. He has a bill to regulate protest. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Honorable Oundo Mudenyo is here, Member of Parliament for Funyula. Thank you so much for making time. Wanjiru Gikonyo is here, advocate for good governance and accountability. Asante sana for making time. And Charles Owino, former police spokesperson, is also here with us in studio. Asante sana for making time. And Owino, I'll start with you. How would you describe the state of the nation today before we get into what it will take to save our country?
I think we are in a very disorganized situation where there's pull and push. People coming up with interest. We know very well there's a government in place that needs to start working, given that we have a lot of burden and responsibility. You know, we've taken very hefty loans, which we need to pay. We still have the effect of COVID with us in our economy. We still have our problems with the Somalia border, which we need to manage, and a lot of responsibility that the government need to work on. And equally, we are also seeing a situation where those who have lost elections are in denial and trying to push by all means, taking advantage of the poor and those with a lot of problems to cause mayhem. So this puts us in a very awkward position as a country, and we need to take a very firm stand in order to make the country move and run.
Okay, firm stand. We'll come into the firm stand position that you're talking about in just a bit. But Mudenyo, how do you describe the state of the nation?
Good morning, everyone. I would describe the state of the nation as disorganized. Probably to echo what he has said, to be disorganized. We can describe the state of the nation as having unpreparedness in managing public affairs. We can also describe a state of a nation of being probably characterized by insensitivity, complete insensitivity on the plight of the Kenyans and the people who form the nation of Kenya. We also look at a situation where there is a lot of probably either ignorance, hubris, or arrogance. Basically, that's how we can describe this.
Wanjiru?
I think I'd agree that we have a state where we are not seeing leadership. We've been talking about the country having software problems, and we thought software problems was just corruption. Now we are seeing the importance of leadership. You know, 5 people died, according to the report here yesterday, yet we haven't had a statement from the police talking about these deaths, because every life of a Kenyan is important. If this child was the child of one of our political leaders, we would have had a statement. So there should be a statement from the police condemning the death, assuring Kenyans there will be investigations immediately, that officer will be removed, and there is a due process. So we are lacking the leadership that sets the tone for a constitutional democracy where people are able to exercise their rights and do respect the law.
Ruku?
The state of the nation is we need to urgently declare Raila Odinga as a terrorist for causing mayhem, havoc, anarchy in our country, and he has repeated this from 1982 to date. He needs to be declared not as a statesman, but a terrorist who has ensured this country will never move forward economically. Anytime this nation makes a step in the right direction, it comes up with anarchy and chaos. We witnessed this during administration of Mwai Kibaki in 2008 to 2007, when the economy of this nation was doing very well, was growing at a rate of 10%. He ensured this economy goes back to 5%. We have witnessed the same now. He is trying to do the same thing. And I think it's high time Kenyans declare Raila Odinga as the biggest threat to economic development of this nation and also to the security of this nation, both internal and external security.
Okay. So, we know, what will it take to save our country? You mentioned a firm stand. Who bears the greatest responsibility here?
What it will take to save our country is honesty within ourselves, where both parties would be realistic in whatever they are agitating for and the processes of agitation. First of all, you are aware that currently our major question is that Kenyans are demonstrating because of high cost of living. And now they are talking about the finance bill, the taxes that were increased. That basically is what people are saying is the major cause of the demonstration. But it started with demands like opening the server because of the previous elections and so on and so forth. But the main question would be, before we go to the actions, the actual demonstration, we must ask ourselves, was it in itself necessary to demonstrate on the high cost of living? And if we are demonstrating against the current government, the government in place, the Kenya Kwanza government, then we must ask ourselves, is it true that the high cost of living has come with this government? Because even last year, even the previous years, we have witnessed high cost of living. And I remember the opposition chief was a presidential candidate last year, and I wish you could be able to play his statement here. When he was justifying the high cost of living because he knew that this was, even if he was president today, the high cost of living would have still been with him. And he prepared a very good platform and justified why we had high cost of living. So first of all, we should ask ourselves, where did this issue of high cost of living start? We know very well that we heavily borrowed, and we cannot accuse the previous president for borrowing because we had to get money for development. We should be patriotic enough and say, yes, we borrowed. Yes, we have had issues of COVID and unemployment issues and so on and so forth. What is the way forward to work on our economy? Because where are we going to get money to pay these current debts that we have? So if we can be sincere with ourselves, I think what Kenyans should be fighting is what she was talking about, the software, issues of corruption. Yeah. We should be asking ourselves, if this money is taxed, is it true it's going to pay debts? Is it true it is going to sort us out in our problems? If it is the issue of housing, is the money going to be used properly to construct the houses and so on and so forth? But when you come up and you start talking about opening of the server, and I wish that one can be discussed elaborately. And we had elections. We had a process of elections. The process was properly done in 2012 when we got the new constitution. And we had all the opportunity to protect our votes and to ensure. And even the opposition had the best. They had police, they had the sitting president. You cannot say, umeubiwa, when you have all these things. But that is not important. What we are saying is, first of all, before we discuss the issues of demonstrations and people killed and so on, can we justify the reason why we are demonstrating against this government, if it is not just a matter of somebody thinking that he's empty and he would want to remain relevant. Okay.
Mudenyo, how do the demonstrations help elevate the high cost of living?
Trevor, thanks. First of all, what do we do? First of all, we must start where the rain started beating us. The politics of lies, the politics of promises that nobody has got intentions to keep. Promises that we made during campaigns that will lower the cost of living. And I think, and as I said, if you air some of the statements made during campaigns, it was made to believe that the moment the wakiweka Biblia chini, the cost of living will come down tremendously. That's the bile the Kenyans have with this government at the moment. You lied to us. You promised us heaven. When you got there, you told us heaven does not exist. This is reality. So as I said, that shows an element of unpreparedness to lead this government. So essentially, how does people ventilate their views to the leaders that be, the rulers that be, that we are suffering? The best way, as provided for under Article 37, is to picket and actually demonstrate and show that this is exactly what is happening to us. We are suffering. You don't approach a person who is suffering with a bullet. You don't console a person who has left hungry with the tear gas. You don't console a person whose kids are sitting at home with water cannons. You listen. See, the problem we have in this country that we have forgotten to address the core issues. We are so fixated with Raila that everything that happens in this country, everybody is fixated on Raila. He was nowhere to be seen yesterday, and people protested. The king must be told the truth, that the king is naked and the subjects are hungry. They should not tell the king that the Raila who has undressed you, yet the people have addressed the king and the suffering masses. The moment we remove Raila from the discourse, then we'll be sober enough, objective enough to address the issues at hand. But the right to picket is enshrined in the Constitution. Yeah. We have walked a long way from the days of IPPG up to now. The repeal of the Chiefs Act, amendments we made to Public Order Act to get to a level where a Kenyan who has got an issue can express the same. So to come and tell us that there's a problem with the picketing, there's a problem with demonstration of those kind of things, it's being just extremely dishonest that has been amplified in our politics. Okay. So we need to basically address the issue at hand here.
This constitution you talk about in this Article 37, it clearly states that every person has the right to peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. Would you say these protests have been peaceful?
Largely, whenever the police have not interfered, the protests have been peaceful. We have held so many rallies. We have gone to Kamkunji. We have left and gone home safely.
Deaths, more than 300 arrests. You still think they're peaceful?
Who is killing who?
River.
All the deaths. Listen, all the deaths that have occurred are because of a police bullet. It's even circulating like a small boy who was shot yesterday in the ankle. I mean, in the knee. How would you tell us a boy of about 8 to 10 years? How can that a kid be of any threat to anybody? Okay. So all that we need to focus on. And if you do a post-mortem of all the deaths, they have come from police bullets. Okay. Well, not from nothing else. Okay.
They have come from police bullets. Before you go to Wanjiru,
no,
please.
I think you've also spoken. Yes, let us.
Because you are the former police spokesperson, and I'll allow you to respond to that.
Right. And I'll go back to the point that our leaders set the tone.
Yeah.
The actions of citizens are set by the tone of the government. So one, when citizens perceive that the government is not concerned about their welfare, why? Because despite electoral promises, despite the data coming out from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics showing that people can't eat, can't put food on the table, we see a government with largesse. We see a government actually now begin to increase their own salaries to protect themselves from the taxes they want to impose on Kenyans. We see a government that is not responsible in the way that they're handling public finances, and they're putting a burden on people who are desperate. Further to that, they are not listening to the people because there was a public participation process and people gave views, experts gave views, citizens gave views, and the government has then turned around and not listened to that. Further to that, this government is not consulting with the opposition. We said way back when we saw that the country was in economic distress, that there is a need for bipartisanship in the way the country approaches the economic reality. Unfortunately, the previous administration did not do that. They did a handshake, but they did not put the issue of dealing with the economic reality on the table. They were lying, they were hiding information, they were pretending things are okay. This government has come in, they're making the same mistake of the previous administration. They are making decisions that impact Kenyans. without having due consultation so that they gain legitimacy. Legitimacy is very important when a government doesn't have options, because this government inherited an administration, and their manifesto says it, that didn't give them the fiscal space to do what they need to do. So there are poor decisions. There is a lack of leadership in the way this government is conducting itself in a time when we're in an economic crisis. They should have done, and there are examples that are made, there are proposals that were made, it's also constitutional, stakeholder engagement. Let us have consensus. Where are we cutting money so that we can spend? Last point I'll make in response to the erroneous and very unfortunate statements made by Honorable Ruku and other political leaders. If you look back to what caused the post-election violence, it's this vitriol, this personalization and demonization of a political leader who commands the support of half the country. When you make these irresponsible statements, and I wonder what happened to the National Cohesion Commission, because they should censure our politicians on both sides. This vitriol shows a lack of leadership, and it also fans violence, and it fans that anger when citizens who voted for Raila Odinga, who support him, see that their leader is being torn down. So, like I said, the tone is set by our IG and the tone that's given when the life of a citizen is lost because of a police bullet. It's also set by our political leaders in the utterances they make. We saw a foreign trade dignitary coming here and refusing to engage with the minister of this country, humiliating us on the regional, on the international stage because of these very irresponsible utterances. Let us learn from the past.
Okay.
Hawkishness and this kind of very bullish talk and bravado, too much testosterone in the room, this is what caused the post-election violence. And unfortunately, we are seeing a repeat of those events where there's a lack of legitimacy, there's irresponsible statements on both sides, including here, and also on the other political side. And that's why religious leaders have come out to say, calm down. Stop this. Let us talk. We are one country. We have major issues. We don't agree on everything, but let us talk.
Okay. Ruku, do you think Kenyans are facing a hard time economically?
Yes, it is true. Kenyans are facing hard times economically, and not only in Kenya, but in globally, whether it is United States of America or in Europe or in other countries in Africa.
So why is the state
sorry?
Why is the state of the nation according to you about Raila Odinga?
Yeah, because there are better ways of dealing with economic and times like we are facing now, not only in Kenya, but also in other countries. Other countries are doing it in a different way. And this government has ensured there is proper policies, the budget is properly well aligned to ensure the entire value chain is taken care of. The effort to mitigate the hardship, this government has ensured those programs are put in place. I don't want to go through the programs, but probably just to mention, there were only two clauses in a financial bill, which was a bit and some difference that we could be able to go into division. But basically, most of all other clauses, that was housing fund or housing tax at the moment, and petroleum product tax, those were two contentious clauses, which we voted as a House. And by the way, the members of Azimio, they were nowhere to make their voice, to vote against what they are shouting at the top of their voices at the moment. You know, this country, I think the breed of the people who are there, the age of Raila and Kalonzo, are completely insincere people, are completely immoral people, immoral, unethical people who today will say one thing, and then when things don't go on according to their wish, tomorrow they say totally different thing. People who treat our constitution as a mere suggestion. They don't treat constitution as, you know, a very sacred document to guide this nation. And it's very unfortunate to have such kind of leaders who I think were not properly well grounded morally, ethically, and they don't deserve positions of leadership in this country. And I think the younger generation, our generation, must read off completely this type of politics, of conmanship, from the one which we are seeing propagated by Raila and his team.
Okay.
Because you cannot stand just the other day, tell us why the high cost of living, why there is prices of goods are going up. That is Raila Odinga who was saying that the cribs are there during the handshake government. And he gives justification why we have serious problems in terms of prices. He talks of what's happening in Ukraine and other places. Yeah. But today, it changed. Why say something yesterday when things are turned around? Yeah. Why Raila came out clearly saying that if he loses elections, it will not cause problems. And it was open, those scripts are there. Yeah. And he said he trusts the IBC.
Okay. But this
and at the same time, he took through the processes of the legal processes. And our court pronounced themselves clearly.
Okay.
All these stuff that you are talking about, if you go to the judgment of High Court, of Supreme Court, page 38 of 84 pages, it is clearly stated how the auditing of the servers. So let us be honest for the sake even of your grandchildren. Yeah.
It is this
let honesty. Us be honest, let us be sincere with ourselves. We cannot be speaking from the both sides of our mouth.
Exactly. It is this dishonesty that we're talking about. And in fact, Mudenyo also mentioned it, that Kenyans feel like they were lied to because they were told by the time we put down our Bible, the cost of living will come down. Then all of a sudden, the story changes. Isn't that talking from both sides of the mouth?
This government has put in place programs to ensure the cost of living is coming down. For instance, the edible oils. Let me give you an example. The edible oils, the cost of edible oils was too high when this government was taking office. Today, the cost of edible oils is going down. And why is it that the cost of edible oils is quite high in our country? It's because of what we call state capture. The manufacturers, can you imagine a Kenyan going to court to prevent this government to remove the import levy of edible oils from other countries? Why? Because there are people, very senior people in government, who have been used to constructing policies to enrich themselves. The companies which are in edible oil market, they are owned by former senior government officials. And they keep on increasing the prices now and then. Not only the market of edible oils. If you go to the logging business of this country, senior government officials who are directors in companies.
Fair enough. But we're talking about the
when you come to the petroleum product, senior government officials construct policies to ensure, because they have huge interest in oil marketers companies. They construct policies to ensure 8% of the VAT goes back to their pocket. This government, led by William Ruto, is saying, we are not interested in oil marketing companies. We are not interested in edible oil companies. We will do the right thing to ensure the cost of living come down. Remember, it's a process. It's a gradual process. This government has been in power for less than 9 months at the moment.
Let me bring in on this.
The budget we ran last month, is the first budget for this government. Let's see how this implementation of this budget is going to be, and we judge the government by July next year. And I'm telling you, and what I can tell Kenyans is, by next year, July, if these shenanigans come to an end, we will be telling William Ruto, please tax us more, because we have seen what these taxes are doing to the Kenyans.
Kenyans better fast.
And by the way,
Kenyans better hold their
and by the way,
you're suggesting more tax.
What I'm saying, Kenyans will be telling government of William Ruto, look, we have seen what you have done with our taxes. You have revolutionized our economy. If this is the way you are doing with our taxes, please tax us more. And by the way, the last one, Trevor, is that anyone in government who will misuse the taxpayers' money in William Ruto's government, I'm telling you that person will be hanged in the tallest tree at Uhuru Park.
Okay, I have to take
Anyway,
a quick break. I know there's a lot of reactions coming.
Now,
when I have to take a commercial break, then I'll come because I know there's something you need to respond to on the excessive use of force by police officers. But also,
And
waiting for Kenyans. Kenyans wait
Wait
for their
for
hand.
7 years.
Hashtag Daybreak. What will it
Suspend
take?
their
7 months.
I'm
I'm not saying.
the question you're asking this morning.